Hello everyone. Today I have a little bit more of a grim video, unfortunately, because I want to talk about how I lost a client. It is about manifesting going completely wrong, and now that person, my client, unfortunately is no longer among us. I want to talk about everything, how it happened, mistakes that were made on my side, on her side, and how it went to the way of her passing, unfortunately, quite recently. The time I'm recording this, it has been less than a week, and I had been a little bit shook. But I think that there's so much to learn from it, and I want everyone out there to prevent the mistakes. So this video will be about telling about the story, what happened actually, and then of course we do the reverse engineering in order to understand how it happened, the reasons for it happening, and because there is a lesson even among the very sad things in life, and I can only advise for you to watch this entire video, because maybe it will save your life or somebody else's lives that is close to you. Well, as I already said, it does sound grim. It is, but I'm going to tell you exactly what happened, okay? I would like to take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Janine Nicole, and I have been working as a spiritual coach for over 20 years. For more information, you can check out the introduction video on my page. And of course, you can check out my social media. You will find contact information below, and I am available for coaching. So this client and I, we go way back. I don't know exactly how long, maybe 10 years, 8 years. And we were talking sometimes on a very regular basis. There were like phases in her life where we were talking, I would say, at least once per week. And then of course there were phases where we were talking less, and maybe sometimes for several months, not at all. When I first met her, I didn't know anything about manifesting and the law of assumption, at least not what I know now, but what I had figured out in my, years and years and years of coaching. And I've always been someone who tried to find patterns, so I've always been ahead of my peers, because instead of just using tarot cards to tell what may happen, I used it more to find reasons for why something is manifesting. Even though I didn't use the word manifesting back then, I said mirroring. But I had realized, due to my today 20 years of experience, that if we are confronted with something in our lives, that there is some pattern in ourselves, some beliefs. I didn't call it assumptions, law of assumptions. I would have called it more beliefs, but potato, right? It's basically the same. So when we met, the coaching was more love related, and I had told her about mirroring, about working on her self-concept, about, addressing the inner child. That is what I would have taught you in the past, work with your inner child. Now I would teach more like Ho'oponopono, revision. But I wasn't where I am today naturally, because we always progress, right? She did work on her self-concept. However, she did not work on her concept about the other person, because I did not know that back then, that the other person mirrors also your assumptions about them and love and relationship, men in general. Therefore, what happened ultimately is that she did not manifest him. She fell out of love one day. She just stopped caring. She didn't want it anymore. During that time, of course, we were talking less. However, the same issue popped up a couple of years later. The same issue popped up into her hologram, into her life later. However, not with a man, but with a very good friend of hers. She was never the kind of person who was just out there looking for a relationship. Some people, they go actively dating and they really want to be in a relationship. That was not her. She wanted to be with that one specific guy, and when she fell out of love, she was like, well, I'm not looking for a relationship. If it comes, good. And she was living her best life, and I would say that she was pretty happy. So when she had reached out after a time where we had not talked, it was about one of her closest friends ghosting her, like withdrawing, just like her specific person had in the past. So there was this pattern, and by then I knew more about manifesting, so I told her, look, it's the same pattern, we can resolve that. The reason why her friend withdrew was because she had been diagnosed with cancer, my client, and the person, her friend, already had lost someone, and she was like, I'm not going through that again, and I want to distance myself. I don't want to see that. In the beginning of this video, I think I said something like how manifesting went wrong, and that is the thing. She, of course, not intentionally, but she manifested having cancer. How? Well, she was reaching her mid-30s, and all of a sudden she started thinking about, I'm so glad I don't have cancer. There's so many people who have that. I'm so glad I don't have it. So when we first talked, she told me how she was thinking about it excessively, and then all of a sudden she got the diagnosis. And that is the thing. There is unfortunately only black and white. Your subconscious mind does not know what you want and what you don't want. Your subconscious knows what you focus on. So she focused on not having cancer, but at the same time on cancer. Because if you don't focus on something, then you don't even think about it. But she thought about it excessively. And in her perspective, it was kind of, gratefulness. I'm so glad I don't have it. But still, she did focus on it. And as I said, there is no black and white. There is either you focus on it or you don't. And it does not matter how you focus on it. And I did do a success story on her story earlier, because we were talking. She mainly wanted to talk about her friend, but of course I addressed the other thing, which was in some way less important to her, even though it had already spread to her liver. So of course we talked about it, and I advised her to do the revision, and I gave her scenes on manifesting that to go away. I gave her affirmations or for her inner dialogue, what she could imagine to, have her treatment with little, side effects. And it worked. So she was officially, after a while, of course, diagnosed as cancer-free. Treatment had worked, and up to that point, she had little symptoms. I mean, she had fatigue quite a lot, but even chemo, she didn't have all the symptoms you would expect. Many of the symptoms just didn't show up for her. So it worked. What also worked is that as she got better, her friend came back. So for her, it was like, yay, happy end. But unfortunately, and that is my mistake, I said that mistakes were made on both sides, and I'm going to elaborate on that later. I knew it would come back, and I didn't do anything with it. Why did I know? Because I had known her for such a long time. She had found me on Facebook, so I occasionally saw things that she posted. And I noticed that those things she posted were still very much related on, being a survivor, on the issue. It was for her basically going to events about cancer, for cancer survivors. So she formed this identity about being a survivor instead of forming the identity of being healthy. And being a coach, well, I knew that would backfire. So I thought, well, next time we talk, I have to talk to her about that. And I put it into the back of my mind because I had other things going on. And as I said, that is the mistake I made in my experience, because I did not revise that. I did not, you could say I stayed on my mental diet because I didn't give it too much thought, but still there was the assumption that already had been created, and I did nothing to clear that assumption. I did nothing to override it. But what's very important is that, of course, I did not create that, because the timeline where she was experiencing that already existed, right? That is very important. We are never to blame, because the timeline where somebody gets sick again exists simultaneously as the timeline where they stay healthy. Both exist, and her soul, due to quantum immortality, will make both experiences always. So when we manifest for other people, we don't really change their situation. We put ourselves onto the timeline where we experience what our assumption is. So either her getting sick again or her being healthy. So again, we never do something, right? When we manifest for others, you can do that, but basically what you're doing is just you change your own experience. Which experience do you want to make? That person being happy and healthy or not, right? And since she was not that close to me, I put it into the back of my mind. If something like this happens to a person that is close to you, then for your experience, I would advise to work on that assumption. If you notice something, and the thought comes up, what if there is it called remission if it goes bad again? Sorry, English is not my native language, but I think it is, right? If something is happening again and the thought pops up or the fear, you please do something about it. You watch your inner dialogue and you actively have it. As I said, I stayed on a mental diet in a way that I didn't think about it, but I realized I had this assumption and I did not take the time to clear it. You want to take the time to clear it if it is someone that is important to you. You can do the revision, you can do Ho'oponopono, you stay on your mental diet, of course, and also you have your inner, the inner conversation we have all day, all the time. You constantly shift that to, oh, I'm so glad that so-and-so is better, they're healthy. I love to see how vibrant they are. I'm so happy to see them glowing. And you have that inner conversation every time you think about that person for a while. We want to get rid of the assumption, right? We don't want to have that assumption that something bad could happen. So that was my mistake. But again, it did not have any effect on her because the timeline where it went wrong already existed. It just affected my experience. If anything negative happens to anyone you love, you can manifest them get better. But again, you only shift to the timeline where that always has been, and you change your own experience. And of course, especially if we love someone, we want to experience those people around us, our loved ones, to be happy and healthy, right? Sorry, we just got disconnected. If this video already helped you and you learned something new, I would really appreciate to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, you know the drill, leave your comments, what have you learned, and make sure to share this video with other people that may benefit. Also, please make sure to check out my other channel, Janine Nicole Manifest with Music, because I found the easiest and most fun way to manifest any desire and to reprogram your mind in the fastest way by listening to songs that are generated specifically to reprogram your mind and to get you into the state of the wish fulfilled, because music is so powerful to do that. So I'd see you in my channel, Janine Nicole Manifest with Music. You can purchase, of course, your own song, or you can contact me for coaching. But now let's get back to the video. So now I want to talk about how I found out about her passing, which was very recently. Maybe 2 weeks ago, a little less than 2 weeks ago, I was thinking about her and I had the urge to reach out to her, and I wanted to just to know how she was being. So even though I had the assumption cancer would come back, unfortunately, I did not have the assumption it would be that fast. So I reached out to her maybe like 2 weeks ago and I was like, okay, I would like to talk to you. I can give you some free minutes. I just want to check up, because she was usually contacting me on those psychic hotlines where I had been working and still work in Germany, but I didn't get any response. And I thought that was weird because she usually responds right away. A couple of days later, there was still no response. So I felt compelled to go to her Facebook page, and she hadn't posted anything for a while. The last post I found was from end of January this year, where she was stating that all of her friends just knew that she was someone who always liked eating, but now she has to get like artificial food. I don't know how it is in English, but like getting an IV, so she couldn't eat anymore. So I was like, oh no. And yeah, then last Sunday, I felt again a strong urge to go to her page. And it was full of candles and, RIP. So I was like, oh no, damn. And she actually passed that Sunday where I had the urge to check. And of course, I cried a little. I had known her for a long time. And since I had been on her page, next time I logged into Instagram, I was shown her Instagram account. So I went back and I looked at some of the videos, and this is now the reverse engineering part, so listen up because this is quite important. One thing I noticed is that while we had been talking, we were talking about veganism. I am a vegan, I have been for over 10 years now, and I'm not the kind of vegan who would like to push it on other people. I'm not very extreme. I rather lead with positive example. And you've seen, I don't talk about it that much in this channel, even though I wish everybody would be vegan, of course, but I'm not a pushy person when it comes to that. I just hope that change is coming and more vegan products, are getting invented. More and more vegans or people find veganism. So I think that it may take a couple of generations, but I think the problem will resolve itself, hopefully. But of course, with her, I talked about it because I've watched so many documentaries about it, and consuming meat, it does something to, the splitting of your cells. And what is cancer? It's a growth. Then dairy, of course, it's full of growth hormones. It's meant to, have a little calf turn into like a full-grown bull or cow within like a year. And what is cancer? It's a growth. So, right, those are related, those are linked. And consuming that, of course, can either cause cancer, or at least it's not helping. So we were talking about it, and she was like, I hardly eat anything that's not, plant-based. I have a plant-based vegan diet most of the time now. But when I went on her Instagram, she was a food blogger, apparently. Everything was full of food, and none of it was vegan. So there was a lot of cheese and meat, and I was like, oh my God, this was literally, you were fighting for your life, and you did something that made it worse. Like, why? Then I watched several of her videos, and the thing is, she made cancer a big thing. I already talked about it. That is why I had formed the assumption. It became her identity. So she also called herself like a cancer blogger or something like that. She was talking about her treatment, and later on she did have some side effects, because the way I watched her videos where she was talking about it, and I also did it because reverse engineering, wanted to understand what happened, right? She grew more and more resistant against doing the treatment, not so much because of side effects, fatigue was one, but because she felt like trapped at home and she couldn't go out that much anymore. And so she was just like, I don't want it anymore. And then symptoms unfortunately came. What I saw in those videos is that she made it very much her identity. I am the survivor. I am the person who is fighting this disease. And that is not good, because as I said, it's kind of black or white, your inner beliefs. You either are healthy or you're not. And of course, that does not mean that you ignore things. And also it's important to say, thoughts are not that black and white, right? You can have negative thoughts, especially if they're fleeting and they're not manifesting. But a thought you think many times becomes an assumption. And that is what we said earlier, how she accidentally manifested having cancer, because she put a lot of focus on it. So don't worry about fleeting thoughts. Of course, when you have a problem like this, you have some focus on it. You have to go to your treatment. If that's what you choose, and if there's something I would always suggest, of course, to get medical help, because who said that even if you manifest help, that it manifests in a way where you don't do anything? It may be happening in a way where you get that input that helps you, or you get that medicine, you get that treatment that really helps you. I have another example. I still have a neighbor who had arthritis, very, very bad. Like, in a way, he said on a scale from 1 to 10, like the pain scale, it would be like an 8 or 9 every day. He told me he had been considering ending his life because of constant pain. And what is arthritis? Well, it's inflammation. And as I said, I'm not somebody who's nagging when it comes to veganism, but after a while I was like, dude, I told you several times, try it. And then I bombarded him with information on it. And he said, okay, I will try it. Because I told him, try it for 3 weeks. If you don't see any progress, well, you lost nothing. You lost eating meat for 3 weeks, and then you can go back. So I went him shopping to show him the products. He was vegan one day, and all of these symptoms were gone. Not all of them. He said, like, on a pain scale, it was like a 1, maybe sometimes a 2, and on a real bad day, it was like a 3. He had told me then that he was thinking about ending his life, but now he was like, oh my God, I get my life back. And he didn't believe it was that easy, because none of the doctors told him. They just gave him more and more medication and were like, you have to live with it. So sometimes when you manifest health, it doesn't have to be like symptoms just magically disappear. It may come in a way where you get that tip like I gave him, or you get that medication, right? So in that moment, of course, you have to deal with it. If you have to have chemo, she had to go there and get it, right? So when something like this comes up, I'm not telling you to ignore the problem. I'm not. Okay, we don't ignore. We don't spiritually bypass. What I mean is, you go there, you get your treatment, but then you have like your assumptions, like, I'm so glad that this helps me. In that moment, you get it, right? In those moments when you do feel like absolutely shit, don't try to manifest anything. Then just write it out. Try to do something that makes you feel good. because there's always waves, right? So when you have a good day, then you can affirm, this is helping me. Or even better, you go further in the future, like, this helped me. I'm so glad I'm healthy now, and that this treatment, it helped me. I remember, I remember one technique. I remember when I was going through this and I didn't feel too good, but now it helped and I'm healthy and now I have this long life. So we're not ignoring the problem, and we're going out and we do what we need to do to resolve the problem. In this case, it was medical help. In your case, it may be something else, right? So we don't just, manifesting is not like, oh, no, I don't see it. It's not there. It's not there. Yes, it's there in that moment. Deal with it, but don't let it consume your inner world. Don't let it become your identity. Your identity should be, I'm the one who is not just cancer-free. We don't want to use that word. I'm the one who is healthy now. I'm the one who's vibrant now. I'm the one who gets to live a full, happy life. That needs to be your identity. Or if you're manifesting for someone else because, you want to experience them to be, you see them as the happy, healthy, and vibrant version, which does not mean when they come and they want to talk about a problem, you're like, we don't talk about it. Take it serious. But still, depending on how open they are, you can then still tell them what I just told you, or you go home and you still see them as happy and healthy. Because again, it's not your single thoughts that manifest, it's a dominant assumption. So even if you have something you go through and this is what you're experiencing in that moment, it's like on your mind, it's like your thoughts, you don't have to turn it into your identity. And that is what unfortunately happened with my client. She turned it into her identity by talking about it very publicly. And I'm not saying that that is a bad thing to want to, tell other people. It's like a thin line between wanting to give hope to others or just making it like this big thing. And she made it her identity. I could tell it by the way she was talking about it. I could tell it by the things she posted, and that is why it had to come back. Because in her identity, her core identity was the woman who has this disease, who's fighting it. And also in one of the videos I saw where she was about, and that's the thing, she was about to, start working again. The doctors had told her, you're good. And she was already talking to her boss about going back to work. And that was actually last October. And last October she was posting, wow, everything is fine and I'm going back to work next month probably. And I'm so happy I finally get my routine back. That was last October, mid-October. Now I'm recording this, what's the date? 13th of March. It is a Thursday and Sunday she passed. So mid-March. It happened that fast. One of the reasons is I saw her talk about a documentary she saw where a teenager, a young girl, like 17-ish, I believe, also overcame cancer. And then all of a sudden, a couple of months later, it came back worse than before, and that little girl passed. And she was talking very openly about that, about cases where she read that somebody was, healthy. She didn't use the word healthy, unfortunately. She used cancer-free, bad word, and that it came back. So that was, again, something she put a lot of focus in. She was in this very good place. She had successfully manifested being so close to get her normal life back. She was that close. And then she put her focus on the wrong stuff, and like 4 months later she was gone. Because she made it her identity. So that's the thing. Please never make yourself a survivor, no matter what it is. No matter if it's kind of abuse or any disease or an accident. We don't want the energy of survivor within you. Because what happens then? You manifest situations where you are a survivor or not. The thing may come back maybe in a different form. But if you make yourself a survivor, you are still resonating with that part of you that experienced it. And once you push through We don't want to do that. We want to revise the situation into I have always been healthy. We want to do the Ho'oponopono. We want to take on the identity of someone that never happened to. We take the strength out of the situation we learned. We take the gifts that may have come with that situation. But our identity must not be I am this. Your identity must be I am the one who's always been happy, healthy. If you do that, you won't forget what really happened to you. You won't forget your experience. This is not about forgetting. This is not about negating that you have been through something difficult. It is just like, I don't want to make this my identity, because my identity is I'm the person who's always happy. You see the difference? Another thing that made me kind of sad and heartbroken was that when I was on her Facebook page, I saw a post by the man that we had been talking about, and how he had heard about her passing, and he went to the hospital straight away to see her, to say his goodbyes. And this is getting me emotional. You could really read the heartbreak in those lines, and it's like, oh my God, life is so short. And he was, avoidant attachment, so he of course had his fears. And it is so sad because, well, it could have been, and he never opened up to her that way. I mean, they were like a situationship, and that is what can happen, right? If you don't really live, if you're too scared to open yourself up for love, you may, realize what you've lost when it's too late, and it's sad. But then on the other hand, since creation is finished, I know the timeline where she is happy with him, where she manifested that relationship, because in that timeline she learned to see him in a different way. As I said earlier, we don't just manifest based on our self-concept, but also on the concept we have about other people. If you want to learn more about that, I do have a video, well, it's in the Twin Flame playlist, but it just doesn't matter if Twin Flame is a specific person, on how to manifest your twin flame or a specific person. In that same, you have a video about the 4 things you need to heal, and one of those is of course your concept about man or women, love, relationship in general, and then of course the other person. So there's a timeline where she managed to do that, and where they're happy right now, because time is an illusion. And that is something, that thought gives me joy, that even though in this timeline that I manifested myself, yes, I put myself onto this timeline by having the belief it will come back, and I didn't clear it, so that is on me. I put myself on that timeline. I did not create this experience for her. She did. I was just a match for that specific timeline. And again, quantum immortality, if you're interested in that, make sure to watch out my death series playlist, where I talk about how we live the same life over and over, like every possibility. So right now, in this very moment, there is the timeline where she is happy with her love, and that makes me happy. So I'm grieving a little bit, I have to say. It shook me because she was so young. I forgot to mention, she was like 38. No, I did mention that when she hit her 30s, mid-30s, she had that thought. Yeah, she was 38 when she passed, so she's actually 4 years younger than me. But the way I want to see her now, and I'm training myself to see her, is in that timeline where she has her happy end. And even though in this timeline that didn't happen, it gives me some joy. Joy, is that the right word? It gives me some good feelings. I cannot think of the right word I want to use. That in another version of her, she's got her happy end. So I want to see her like this only, to have manifest her happy end, because it doesn't exist. Not in my reality, in this reality I'm on right now, but it does exist. Before anyone asked why I don't attempt to manifest her back, even though I do believe it is possible in theory, manifesting sometimes takes time, especially if it's something like this big, because we get programmed about our beliefs about death, and it would take a while to reprogram those. And I wasn't close enough with her to I don't want to say waste my time, because it's not a waste, but take time out of other things that to me are more important. Because again, if I manifested her being back, I would not manifest a different outcome for her. It would just manifest a different outcome for me. And I'm not willing to put that much effort in order to try it. Even though if somebody would ever want to manifest someone coming back, I would say this would be maybe a situation to attempt it, because most people who want to manifest someone coming back would do it out of, pain and fear and lack. And there is a bit of grief, sadness within me, but not because I wasn't that close to her, right? I mean, we go back for a while, but she was never like one of my friends, someone I really liked her. So putting this much effort into shifting me to a timeline where it didn't happen, it doesn't feel right for me. And as I always said, my interest remains more theoretical. I studied philosophy, right? So it is something that I like to explore with my mind, but I don't feel the need to experience it in a 3D. Maybe it would be different if I lost somebody very close to me, right? But then if it weren't like all of a sudden like an accident, I would manifest before that. And I would rather manifest, and that is something I occasionally do affirm, that everyone I love gets to live a long, happy, healthy life. So that is where I put my focus. I want to manifest everybody around me to have this long, happy life, and no one passing before that time. But anyway, yeah, I think this is all I have to say. It's a very long video, but I hope that you learned something from this. It's all about your identity, who you are. I have another thing to add. When I talked to her, and also like on her social media, I think one of the reasons she stopped contacting me is that she stopped believing in manifesting, because she would tell you, I've been thinking positively. She would, because that's what she told me. I was like, yeah, I'm going through this, but I'm optimistic. Doctor said I'm young, so I may be able to win this, and I'm super optimistic. And I truly believe that she thought she was. But again, it is not our thoughts that manifest, it's our assumptions, right? Whatever is stronger. And she made it her identity. You heard me use that word before, identity. So thinking you are positively thinking, and maybe she was optimistic. Maybe she was. I'm not denying it. The way she talked to me, I thought she was. In the videos, I thought she was. And she didn't post any after, the last videos she posted also on social media were probably at the end of October. I assume she then got a diagnosis, and then she just withdrew. And there was one post in the beginning of January on Instagram where she said, well, I wish everybody happy new year. For me it's not looking good, but I'll stay optimistic, I'll stay a fighter. And then there was nothing. Before that she was optimistic. But optimism doesn't manifest. Pessimism doesn't manifest. Your core beliefs do. Optimism is good, because if you train that, it can become your core belief, right? But I guess she didn't have enough time. I guess the mental diet was not, as I said, she put too much focus on her not being the healthy person. So even though she was optimistic, there was a lot more going on the other direction, unfortunately. But I think that is all I wanted to say about this. And yeah, it is a sad story, but even sad stories can sometimes be amazing lessons. And I hope it helped you in some way. I hope it gave you a perspective. I hope it gave you like this aha moment. And if you know anyone who would benefit from watching this video, then please share it, because I want many people to watch this video. And I see you in another video, and I do have some plans that are more happier. So I hopefully see you there, and I do wish you all the best now. Bye bye.